In the hushed corridors of one of the world's most storied palaces, a secret was waiting to be unearthed. Prince William, heir, 2 centuries of tradition, had returned from an afternoon of official engagements to find a curious bundle tucked behind an old cabinet in his mother's former study. Bound with a faded ribbon and yellowed with age, the envelopes bore handwriting he instantly recognized, his mother's own. At first glance, they seemed like ordinary letters from a mother to her son, warm, affectionate, filled with her unique humor and tender nicknames. But as William unfolded the first page, a chill ran down his spine. These were not the simple words of familial love. Hidden between the lines were references to people and events that hinted at truths long overshadowed by palace protocol. With each letter he read, William began to grasp the weight of what lay in his hands, not just memories of his beloved mother, Princess Diana, but fragments of a narrative that some had tried to bury, unknown to the public eye, hints of alliances, personal betrayals, and veiled references to long-standing relationships within the royal family pulsed through these pages, as though Diana had penned both affection and caution. In the quiet of that historic room, William felt the presence of the past gently converge with the unforgiving demands of the present. The discovery was not merely emotional, it was revelatory. What had been buried for decades was ready to provoke questions not only about lineage and loyalty, but about the future of a monarchy struggling to balance tradition with transparency. Across the palace grounds, beyond the heavy oak doors that guarded William's discovery, lay another tale, a narrative intertwined with the life of Queen Camilla. Before she was crowned queen consort, Camilla had been a figure of fascination and controversy. Rumors and whispers had followed her through the decades, not least because of her decades-long connection with William's father, now King Charles III. Their story had begun in youth, in laughter and unguarded moments overlooking polo fields and garden parties, but it had taken on darker shades when it spilled into the public realm. In 1993, an intimate telephone conversation between Charles and Camilla was leaked to the press, shocking a nation and igniting fierce debate about loyalty, privacy, and the price of love in the spotlight. Historians would later label the scandal with a name that hinted at both humor and infamy. A moment when the private was thrust into the limelight and refused to be silenced. But behind the headlines and tabloid frenzy lay real human complexity, 2 individuals bound by affection, duty, and the inescapable gaze of a watching world. As William pieced together his mother's words from the hidden letters, he began to notice allusions to events from that era, echoes of the past that refused to fade. The palace walls, echoing with centuries of ceremony, now seemed to whisper tales of rivalry, sacrifice, and the tangled roots of love that would shape his destiny and that of the crown he would one day inherit. Fueled by an urgent need for truth, William sought an audience with his father, King Charles. In the ornate chambers where generations of monarchs had sat and decided the fate of empires, William placed the fragile stack of letters before Charles. The king's expression was inscrutable. A lifetime of bearing the weight of the crown had taught him restraint. Yet beneath the regal composure something flickered, remorse, nostalgia, maybe fear. Charles reached out gently, fingertips grazing the edge of the topmost envelope, then paused, as though uncertain whether to touch the past at all. Their conversation was a measured dance between reverence and revelation. William, with each carefully chosen word, spoke of memory, of love, and the responsibility that comes with truth. Charles listened, his gaze at times distant, at times anchored in the present. The room was thick with history, and with expectation. Outside, the world beyond palace walls had grown restless, hungry for clarity in an era where transparency demands to be heard. Social rumblings, fueled by a public fascinated with royalty's private intricacies, began to swirl. Some called for accountability, others urged compassion, but these were forces William could not ignore. For history showed that when royalty falters in silence, the court of public opinion quickly steps in to shape the narrative. In that chamber, father and son faced not just their shared lineage, but the daunting challenge of reconciling the legacy of the past with a future that was watching intently, waiting to see how the tale of hidden letters would unfold before a world no longer content with secrets. As the hidden letters became public, the world watched. Newspapers, social media, broadcasts, every platform pulsed with debate, admiration, and criticism. What began as a private discovery within palace walls transformed into a global reckoning about history, leadership, and the right of people to know the stories that shape their institutions. William, now standing at the forefront of change, found himself not just heir to the throne, but steward of transparency. In speeches delivered with dignity, he acknowledged the complexity of the past. celebrating the love his mother gave him while honoring the humanity of those intertwined in the royal narrative. He spoke of accountability without vilification, of compassion without compromise. People from all walks of life reacted, some with applause, others with skepticism, yet most agreed on one thing. This was a moment that redefined the meaning of royalty. The legacy of secrecy that once cloaked generations was giving way to a new era where truth, however painful, could coexist with dignity and service. And in this convergence of personal history and public responsibility, William saw a path forward for a monarchy that would endure, not through mystique, but through a shared humanity that resonated far beyond palace gates. In the end, the hidden letters did not tear down a legacy, they reshaped it, forging a future grounded in honesty, empathy, and a deeper understanding of what it means to lead in a world where walls no longer contain the truth.